It's 48.
Trying to.
Says we're streaming, all right?
Yes, we are. That seems to allow.
All right.
Should you?
Should be. There it goes.
There it is.
Wait a minute. Wait, how did it read? We're ready. That's only on Windows. Mac goes. You need your red now? We're good? All right, fantastic. Well, we will call this meeting to order. We do have a forum tonight, so we'll start with pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. We'll start with the approval of the agenda. Seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Fantastic. Move right along then, superintendent's report, Dr. Rodriguez.
All right, it has been a obvious, very busy month. A lot of things kind of going on. I will go through a few different things. We do have online registration getting ready to open up. It's been a process of just getting everything prepared and ready as always. So I don't know if you want to mention just something very briefly, Ms. Deandra, about that.
That opens up in July. We think we have everything ready to go. It certainly has run smoother this year. We finally gotten a rhythm on that, and we're excited. As you know, we're a year early, and the feedback from parents last year was fantastic. So we're very excited to roll that out again and get that moving. I know that Ms. Cordier is there as well, so if you have questions, she could answer them. Otherwise, we're excited.
Did anyone ever actually say they didn't like it? Like, did you get any negative feedback?
Last year, we did get some negative feedback, and when we showed them how to do things correctly, they changed their mind.
Okay, fantastic. I mean, it would be hard for me to believe that there was negative feedback. It's amazing, but you know,
It was usually that we needed to acquire some additional skills to use them. And we're happy to help with that as well.
Awesome.
We do still have our helping sessions that are scheduled for parents that need that additional.
Move on to graduation. I mean, obviously, May 24th, I guess the most notable thing is the fact that we weren't able to have a graduation. We were able to do that in person. And so extremely happy and proud that we were able to do that. Had a lot of positive comments, obviously some concerns about number of tickets leading up to, but we were very cautious with our approach of trying to make sure that we didn't open too soon. And as things progressed, we were able to offer more tickets to students. And so I didn't hear one concern about somebody that wasn't able to attend that wanted to. So once we finally got to that particular point, we were able to do that. And I do think that it went extremely well. And it was very interesting to not have a graduation for a year. So at times it almost felt like we hadn't done this in a long time. And so there were some just trying to remind ourselves of how we do a few certain things, but it went extremely well. And appreciate the board's participation. A lot of good positive comments about graduation. Vaccination events, as you know, we have now vaccines that are able to be 12 and up. And so what we did was we worked with the city. We also worked with Jackson County Health Department. and we hosted another vaccination event at Grandview High School that occurred on June 5th. And then their second shot would have been on June 19th. So we did have about 70 people that were able to be there for that, at least on the June 5th date. And so again, it's very possible that we'll do something like that again as we get closer into July and August. We'll just have to wait and see. The View continues to do different events. And so the hope and the goal is to continue to get as many people vaccinated that choose to do so. And then, we'll kind of look at next school year as we get a little bit closer. But we're going to continue to try to do our part as a school district as best we possibly can throughout that. Summer school update. Obviously, we are almost now at the end of summer school as our rapid kind of piece here, but a lot of things going on, certainly a lot of positive experiences going on. So Dr. King, you just want to give us a brief update there?
Absolutely. So we have had 2 weeks of fast and furious summer school. We have we've had 300 and some kids at our elementary school, and then we've had just about that many at our secondary at GMS as well. I'm happy to report that we have had 55 students at our high school level recover through credit recovery and recovered their class on site, and an additional 33 students that are virtually making up their entire costs. So they're going to be able to be more in line to graduate. We're going to do a second session for those students that are still trying to recover more than one class. So we're going to start a second session after the holiday coming up. But really, some of the good news that we're also able to report is some of the students that have been for perfect attendance in our summer school have qualified for a scholarship to Barstow. We've had excellent students that are over 400 students have qualified for Barstow scholarships that we're going to use some of our ESSER money for, and they're going to get to do lots of really fun things around Kansas City, go to water parks and escape rooms and those kind of things. So we're in the process of getting all them registered for that, and so we'll be able to report out that in July. We're very excited. Kids are super excited. Parents have been very appreciative that we're going to be able to offer that opportunity for their students as well. So we'll report back a little bit more on that in July. I'm sorry.
What age levels?
We have a K2. There's a scholarship there. There's 3-8, and then there's 9-12 as well. So we're after scholarships, and they're segregated for like what each grade level would like actually to do as well.
Certainly a lot of things going on. Like I said, we'll bring some more of that information back to you, but certainly it's going extremely well at all levels. So since the last board meeting as well, we also had the state track competition. Our track team ended up placing 5th as a team. Certainly there's a lot of individual accolades, certainly a lot of positive things that continue to go on. Our team, as you know, did win districts. Continues to be one of the most decorated track teams in the state. We still own 8 titles, obviously, so we continue to do extremely well. Our alumni continue to do well. We have one alumni who runs for USC. They are national champs right now. I think she runs, is it tonight she runs? She runs tonight to potentially qualify for
200 meter.
Yeah, the 200 meter. So it continues to go beyond, obviously, the city of Grandview, and it goes even beyond that. So extremely proud of what our athletes continue to do, even after they leave us, and it's pretty amazing. But certainly our females continue to do the same thing. I mean, they competed really well. They didn't do as well in terms of the overall competition with the team, but individual accolades continue to be racked up for that as well.
One of our former students is running to qualify for the Olympics.
That's what I was saying.
High
Yeah,
altitude, yeah.
that's tonight.
Angie
She's-
and Ellis.
Not who?
Angie and Ellis.
I'm talking about Quincy Hall.
Oh,
Oh,
He went to elementary here. He was in mine.
I don't think I knew that. Fantastic. Thank you.
Graduated from Raytown.
Also didn't stay, he wasn't here for.
South Carolina Gamecocks. Look for him tonight in the 400 meter hurdles.
Wow. Wow.
Sorry, I did not know that.
Me too. Go to the last day of school. Obviously, the last day of school being June 4th. A lot of kind of sighs of relief, to obviously get there. A lot of things happening this school year, as all of you know. And so I think it was definitely well needed for our staff to have a break and well deserved. And so certainly to get to that point, but still very proud of the way that we ended the school year, being open like we were, being able to have students back. Again, it was very exhausting for all of our staff at every single building, including this building as well. But it was amazing to be able to still see students and have them there, and look forward to having them back. I think the summer school piece starts a good, lays a good foundation for that students, I think, do want to come back to school. And then we'll kind of see how that plays into everything as we get closer to August. But a much deserved and needed break for our staff across the district. Principal professional development is part of every single year. Another thing that we do at the beginning of the year is we have some professional development. We have meetings every single month with our staff and administrators, and then specifically with our principals. And then at the end of the year, we usually have 2 days of principal PD, where we kind of set the tone for the next school year. So Dr. King, I don't know if you add a little bit of just kind of what we did those 2 days, and Dr. King runs that PD and coordinates all that.
So this year, we actually were brought on site, Dr. Parrott and Dr. Butch, which are two of the authors from Disrupting Poverty and Turning High Poverty Schools into High Performing Schools. They came on site and they worked with me in collaboration to prepare 2 days of really good professional development for our building principals. The first day was June 17th. We kind of took a big look at what did this year in education teach us. And then we took a really hard look at, are we even asking the right questions moving forward, and the power of questions. The thing of the beauty of questions is it doesn't have a judgment. It kind of moves us in the right direction. And then the afternoon of that first day, we really took a hard look at what type of leadership is needed for the hard work ahead of us. And we talked a lot about collective efficacy and what does it mean to build collective efficacy within your staff. And particularly around your teachers and around building a strong collective culture around your staff. The second day, we focused a lot on the change model and about complex change and how do you manage complex change, and what does it mean to your leadership, and a lot on reciprocal leadership. If you are expecting people to change, what are you doing to making sure that you are meeting them that way to meet them halfway? And we also had to take a hard look. I called it mirrors and windows. Are you holding up a mirror to saying, what are you doing to make that change? And then looking in the window to say, here's where we want to go. And are we willing to go there together? They had to do a lot of self-reflection, and then also be thinking about establishing the future of where our Grandview is going to go, but then also knowing where they need to go themselves as a leader, and where they're going to position themselves for strength, and also their staff for strength, and our community for strength. The afternoon was a work session. I thought it was a very powerful couple of days. I plan to wrap back around with it when they come back July 21st. With it is the consistency of professional development, and be as great as you want it to be, but if you don't come back around to it, you don't hold people accountable for what we learned and what we talked about, and how that's going to play out in their buildings and with their 30, 60, 9-day plans and their SIP plans, then it's only as good as the paper it was written on. So that's going to be my accountability. My reciprocal leadership as part of that is holding them accountable for what we discussed in that professional development. It was a really good 2 days.
It was.
I'm very excited.
Huh?
We can tell you're very excited.
It was good.
I like it.
I went home like on cloud nine.
It's good to set the tone for the year, to, kind of end the year with challenges, and obviously kind of taking that into my COVID-19 update, as we talk with them about still a lot of uncertainties of where we go, where we're going to be at the beginning of the school year. Yes, we think things are progressing and things are going better, but there's still a lot of uncertainties between now and then. But then also there's uncertainties when students come back. I mean, some students will have not been in a classroom in a year and a half. They'll have not been around that many students in a year and a half. They'll have not been in a classroom for 5 straight days in a year and a half. And we'll flip that note again for our staff as well. Our teachers will have not had that many kids in their classrooms in a year and a half. Will have not had to teach that many classes in succession for that many days in a year and a half. And so a lot of concerns and a lot of challenges, a lot of things that we're talking about. How do we support both sides? How do we make sure that our students are supported? How do we make sure that our staff is supported? How do we meet the needs of both those groups? And a lot of social, emotional concerns and challenges that I know we're going to have to be ready for. And so certainly some unknowns there, but we don't necessarily know right now in terms of what it will look like in terms of masks. Obviously, we kept summer school the same as what we had been doing. I think it's very possible that that becomes a recommendation whenever students return. And then kind of seeing, but again, we've got some time between now and then. The CDC, I'm sure will weigh in at some point. We'll be talking to Jackson County Health to kind of think about things where we are right here in the Midwest and in our particular county. So hopefully the vaccination rate continues to go up. The infection rate continues to stay as low as it is. And then I would assume that we would have that conversation as we get a little bit closer with other individuals in the district, including Ms. Rhodes behind me, and kind of having that conversation of what will that look like whenever we have students return. So again, a lot of things between now and then. It's a lot of uncertainties, but we also know it'll go by in a blink of an eye. The next time that we meet is a little bit earlier in July than normal. But then obviously when we come back for that following meeting, which will be very, very quickly, we'll already kind of be at that point. So a lot of conversations happening between now and then, still some uncertainties, but I anticipate we'll be a little bit closer to that discussion and be able to update you a little more whenever we come back in July. In terms of board priorities update, I think the biggest piece that I would say is there's a lot of exciting things happening right now in terms of our work with Kaufman, but also our work specifically with real world learning. And I met again today with the CEO of Honeywell. This CEO changed hands. So this is the third CEO since I've actually been in the district. The last CEO was, again, all of them have been very much wanting to partner with the district. But I'll tell you the same thing that I told the CEO today, that I feel like we have made more progress in the last 3 months in terms of our partnership than maybe we had in the last 3 years. The CEO very much is an individual who wants to remove barriers, wants to partner with the district, and believes that he should be their number one partner should be the people in their own backyard, which is us. So we agreed with every single thing that he said, and he has been on site a couple different times already. Regardless of whether his team, he doesn't just send his team, he tries to be involved in all those things, which I think sends a very strong message to his staff. And so I know he's worked with Dr. King and her team already several times. He is going to be meeting with a group of superintendents and board members in late July as well, and being on a panel. He is very engaged in what's happening in the city, but specifically he wants to provide as much opportunities for our students in our district. So we're extremely excited about that, him being a part of what our plans for the high school are going to be in terms of what our advanced manufacturing looks like down there, and what tools and potential other equipment may be needed specifically to make sure that our students are prepared for what they may want to see after they graduate. So again, we have several pathways in place, and he wants to be a part of as many of those as he possibly can as an organization. So considering that as a federal government agency, and he's already being able to remove barriers, including having some of our teachers have externships being on their site. He has found a way to make that happen already, and a group of them already did that last week, and will go in July. So he has done more in the last couple months for us in terms of that partnership than maybe we've had in the last several years. So very, very excited to see how this is progressing, and looking forward to presenting more of that information to you in the coming months. That is the last thing on my list. I will say, in good news, I think we sent this out, but certainly it happened pretty late, but that Grandview Middle School it did earn the Distinguished School title again for Project Lead the Way. So once again, another accolade for that school in particular, but certainly for our district, and with our partnership with Project Lead the Way, it continues to be a great one in that regard. So that's in the good news as well, if you didn't see that. So that's my report.
Questions about that?
Quick question, as far as the real world process, has there been any more details as far as, or that you can share regarding that program?
In which aspect? Yes, sir.
In terms of some of the opportunities, I remember attending that first meeting and then kind of been out of the loop
Yeah, I mean, the Kaufman work continues, and it's been a lot. Obviously, what they did actually is they even had to extend a lot of that stuff by a year because everything shut down. And so there was a lot of things left undone because everything shut down and they didn't really know what to do, but the work continued. So even our work continued. We still had students go to Avila. We were still having students being a part of a lot of the plans in terms of design and things. So we were still moving forward, but with the Kaufman side of it, they're kind of now going back, and they extended it by 1 year, but now they want to continue to move that process forward as well. So they extended the grant by a year when normally we would be talking right now about a more sizable amount of money that they were going to contribute to the phase 1 teams, which we were one of those school districts. So there's still a lot more things that I could share. And we're going to do a more formal presentation in terms of where we are as we begin the school year and kind of what our plans are, but what we have accomplished as well.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to salient dates then, Dr. Rodriguez.
There's 2 on there that certainly be highlighted. Number 1, as I mentioned, the board meeting in July is a little bit earlier because the first is on that Thursday. So it seems like it's really early. It's a pretty quick turnaround for my new team, but we're going to be ready. So that is July 15th. And then right now, again, we do have a board work session scheduled for July 24th.
Where is that?
Right now, we're still planning on having it potentially over at our law office, which we've done the last few years. So that's where I'm anticipating. I just have to confirm that, and then we'll send that out. Winmundorf, over by the plaza.
We'll make it fun. All right, we'll move on to finance committee. So screen is not here tonight. So do we have a sub any or Dawn? Presenting?
Myself almost.
Fantastic. You lost the flip.
Began with
Annie Blankenship and myself, Don Kessler, were attendees, and Rick Cook was also present. Assistant superintendent. Dr. Powelson was also present. Ms. Cook asked if we had any questions related to this evening. There's no questions. Committee inspected awards. Ms. Blankenship examined the fall awards over 15,000. The expenses and reimbursement awards. I examined the district purchase cards. Responded to all questions. Based on the examination, the finance committee recommends that awards be approved by the board. I'll read that they determined I was going to read this. Ms. Cook also reminded the committee that the final check review that needs to occur on June 29th to close out the financial year. End at 5:35.
Good job.
That we accept.
All right. Thank you very much. Did a great job. All right, well then we'll move on to recapitulation of funds. Dr. Rodriguez.
Yes, we have a few things for this month. Let's go.
Yeah, the financials in your packet go through the month of May. On the revenue side, we are up about $1.2 million compared to this time last year. That's due to 2 things predominantly. Mostly it's the increase in taxes as well as the receipt of CARES funding, pardon me. As I shared last month, our current taxes came in really strong this year. We actually had received over 100% at the end of May. So later we have a budget amendment to up that just a little bit. And you can see where we stand for the rest of the funds. On the expenditure side, we're actually down a little, quite a bit this year. Again, just some reduced expenditures in a lot of areas. Some areas not. Payroll's right where it should be. At the end of May, we did have an operating surplus of about $4.5 million. But as we know, June is a heavy expenditure month because we have a double payroll to close out the fiscal year. But I will share spoiler alert, for not to steal Dr. Powelson's thunder for next month, but We requested and received a significant amount of ESSER two money this month, and so that'll be reflected in the financials for this year. And we'll be able to use that moving forward. So have a little bit more to talk about, but we have a budget amendment later in the agenda that will delineate some of that, those details. Happy to respond to any questions.
Alrighty, no questions, then we will move on to audience participation. Cyrus, were there any registers to speak to an agenda item tonight?
There were none.
All right, thank you very much.
I would ask if anyone in the audience. to-
Oh, yes, anybody in the audience would like to speak to an agenda item tonight? All right. We'll move on to the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion on that.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Words are hard.
Trying to use all words.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, passes unanimous. Thank you. All right, we will move on to action. Student service, or student success focus area.
We have a couple of program evaluations, so Dr. King. Anybody's first.
All right, first up, we have our lovely Mary Rhodes, and you get front and center.
Ah,
I'm gonna sit right here.
she'll get middle beside.
You can always sit next to me. You can sit in this chair.
That's right.
Let's separate you two.
Maybe. So the last year and a half has been a blur. We like to call it the COVID blur. It changed just about everything that we did in our department. I think just about every department could say the same thing. But I think we've successfully navigated quite a few of those challenges. So I'm going to highlight a few of them and then I'll entertain questions if you have any. Our very first one was when we came back from, well, let's start with January, February, March of 2020. We started asking questions and people started asking us questions and we didn't have any answers. And so that was very difficult. And then we had spring break and when we came back, we didn't come back. And so our first issue was what did we do? What is our part? There were no students in the buildings, but we still had a district to run. And that meant that there were staff members in just about every building doing a myriad of things. So those of us who were allowed to be on site were in charge of assessing symptoms and taking temps and just making sure that people were safe to be working in their workplace. They also helped with a lot of the food distribution. They were on site, so they just went to work wherever they could. We also distributed our Giving the Basics items. That need never changed. Parents would call in and ask for things that they had been asking for, for the last 2 or 3 years. And we made that happen. They had to come to the school and pick it up, but we made sure that they got the items that they needed. One of the biggest things that we had an issue with was that we couldn't do professional development in person. So we had to do everything either by phone or by email. But one of the biggest things that we did early on was all of us signed up for an online course through Johns Hopkins University. It was on contact tracing. It was a multi-hour, very long and involved course. But I think it was instrumental in making sure that we got through the next year almost unscathed. It taught, you have to remember that of the 12 people on my staff, myself included, 3 of us are nurses and the other 9 people are lay people. No medical training other than first aid, CPR, and whatever on the job that we provided. They're not medical professionals and they're not used to dealing with a lot of this stuff. I think that they rose admirably to the challenge. They learned in this course what this disease was all about, how it was transmitted,
what we had to do in terms of contact tracing, what we had to do in terms of quarantining people and why we quarantined this person this many days and this person this many days. I think we had to educate a lot of our staff and a lot of our parents on that same issue. That was one of the hardest things I think that Ms. Deanda and I had to deal with. Speaking of Ms. Deanda, I will say that she was a rock for me, a source of confidence. This was uncharted territory for all of us. And I think we worked really, really well as a team. And I think we pulled it off. So, Ms. Deanda. A lot of our screenings that we do with district staff and we do en masse. We couldn't do any of those this year the same way. The ones that we typically do with district staff, we did not do at all. But our district partners came through in a big way. They managed to find ways to streamline their processes, and Cass County Dental was able to come through with their dental screenings. We actually went ahead with our teledentistry program that we were piloting this year. And I think that was successful. We anticipate pushing that out into all the elementary schools in the coming school year. I don't know how they managed to get parents to come in when they were scared to go to the actual dentist, but they did. They made appointments and saw just one kid at a time. They did x-rays and did some minor work, and then they referred them on to the Cass County Dental Clinic as needed, all free of charge to any of the eligible kids. A harder one to do was Cerner and Healthy Kids because they do a full-on physical assessment on kids, so they had to streamline their process. But they managed to also come into every elementary building this year and do those screenings. We were able to refer a number of kids for some pretty serious health conditions who were later then seen by their own physician and taken care of. The hope is that in the coming year, we'll be able to go back to our normal way of doing things. On our online registration, we already have the permission forms for Cass County Dental and for Cerner, and we anticipate having a full-on year for assessments and referrals again. A lot of our staff training opportunities were stalled because, again, we couldn't meet in person with our staff. But we've been working throughout the year trying to identify where those needs will be in the coming year. And we're very ready and willing and able and kind of excited to get back on that track. About the only PD that we did for staff was at the transportation department for bus drivers who needed to know about some specific emergency protocols for some of their riders. Another thing that was hard for parents to understand was the fact that the state didn't waive in July during our enrollment process. They spent a full week over at the care building and gave immunizations to any of the 8th and 12th graders incoming who were needing things to be in compliance. We also offered that opening to any of the surrounding school districts. So we had kids here from Center and Belton and Hickman Mills. So it was a nice opportunity. We're going to do the same thing again this July. They will also offer COVID vaccine to those same incoming 8th and 12th graders. And to parents and to staff who are interested in taking advantage of that. Every week, we send, and we've done this even before COVID, way before COVID, for the last, I don't know, since I've been here, I guess. We send in a weekly surveillance report to the Jackson County Health Department on communicable disease symptoms and reports of actual illnesses. That continued during this school year, although there were fewer and fewer things to report because for so long there were no students or very few students in the building. What we did do was on a daily basis, Misty and I were reporting to the health department any COVID exposures or positive cases and then resulting quarantines. I think we spent the majority of our time assessing symptoms and then trying to explain to parents why they had to come pick up their kids and how long that they had to stay out. And just trying to allay some of their concerns about why their kids were missing so much school. But the outcome of that is that fewer and fewer kids were out as a result. In December, we started providing staff COVID testing. So we were able to, at the high school, we were able to provide tests for symptomatic staff, which allowed us to get people back to work quickly if they were testing negative. I wasn't exactly a fan because it was scary. We felt a little bit out of our depth, but we put on the marshmallow suit and we learned how to do the test, which after doing a couple of them, it was really no big deal. And we only had, I think, 71 positive cases that we tested through our testing site. That does not count the number, I guess, of the ones that we did that tested outside of the district. We did not test children because we just felt like that was an additional burden on the testing site because we'd have to have additional people, parents then coming into the building. We had to have parental permission. It was just, and we were just afraid that it would overrun our ability to provide the testing, the time that it would take. Only registered nurses were allowed to do the testing, and there's only 3 of us. And we were busy doing staff testing and contact tracing and just trying to keep the rest of our staff afloat. One thing that we're very proud of, that we participated with the wellness committee in an assessment of our department. We used the school health index and the WellStat assessment tools. And we were very pleased to find out that we have very little to change. We actually are trending, I guess, model district in terms of the services that we provide and the policies that we have in place. I put down here for you the fact that we've done quite a bit of surveillance. As I mentioned, that Ms. Deanda kept a spreadsheet. We had 430 reported incidents on staff. That could be a positive case, that could be an exposure, that could just be somebody that had to be off work because their kids' daycare closed, whatever. We kept track of everything. We had 745 plus reported incidents, same kind of things with students. I really thought that we were going to get away with the last couple of weeks of June and not have to send anybody home. It didn't quite work. We went out with a bang. It only takes 1 or 2 kids testing positive to quarantine 40 to 50 kids. And we did that, and it's never fun, and it wasn't pleasant, but we did it. I will say that it's been a super challenging year, but it's been one of the most rewarding that I've had. I've learned so much. I've been able to use a lot of my nursing background that I hadn't used before in terms of my public health education. The health department basically turned all 12 of us into public health workers, and I think we rose to that challenge. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have at this point.
Very thorough.
I would just, if I could just add before the questions while you're formulating your questions. Mary and her staff, I can't even tell you how much work they did. Once all this kind of started unfolding and we all grabbed each other, not in good ways, and said, you know, we gotta be a team here. We have to figure this out. And she's a rock compared to me and the rest of her team. But I can't tell you the amount of hours that Mary and I, more Mary so than me. Well, I guess it would have to be both of us because we were communicating, but just the texts and in the middle of the night, in the middle of the morning, trying to make sure people were safe and our kids were safe. You know, we just, a debt of gratitude to Mary and her team just can never be repaid. So anyway, I'll leave it to you. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you for adding that. Any questions?
So I just wanted to clarify something. I heard you say 71 positive cases, but that wasn't the ones that you did on site.
Correct.
When I look back at the
Correct.
report, so 16 of the 100 that you did on site were positive, which means you were able to get 84 staff back.
Right back to work. Some of them that day immediately, some of them just went back home to, you know, just to get over whatever symptoms they were having, but they weren't out for 10 days. Thank you.
I'd just like to say
Just a
thank you.
comment. Thank you.
That's-
Because difficult situation, very difficult to have staff dedicated like that, the knowledge and the willingness to do it. So thank you.
Yeah.
To everybody. Thank you.
I
Said
said,
the same thing. Thank you. I mean, yeah, overwhelming is probably not even close to what it was. So we do thank you very much. Thank you.
I tried to say as many times as I possibly can to her personally, publicly. We talked a lot in these board meetings over the course of the last year and a half about what's happening in our district and COVID and those pieces. And I told you even in this report today, how proud I am of what the district has done, how we progressed. We had, in my mind, less issues than a lot of our colleagues. Again, once we were opening, we did not have to shut down again. And I can't say enough about Mary Rhodes and her leadership in that none of that happens without her. There were so many things this last year that, you know, she's trying to be a little more politically correct than what I will be, but a lot of these things were just put on the districts and we didn't have leadership to be able to do it. The health departments were like, well, we just don't have enough staff, so you guys are going to have to do that. The state says, well, you guys are going to need to do this. And so you guys should have your health departments be helping you. Well, the health departments don't have enough staff. So it's a pointing fingers game, similar to what happened over here with the finance committee thing. But it absolutely happened that exact same way with the school districts and pointing to us. And so not one time at any point did Mary Rhodes say, well, I don't think that we can do this. I can't do this. I mean, we don't have the staff. You know, we tried to, I mean, yes, there was a staffing issue. So we're talking about students. There's just no way that we were going to be able to have the limited staff that we have test all of our students that were going to possibly, you know, do that. So we tried to be very deliberate, but none of the stuff that happens this school year happens without that department and specifically without Mary Rhodes' leadership. When she's saying it was all hours of the night, you guys have no idea the text messages and the messages that were constantly, because we get the message at 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday that someone tests positive. And so then we have to backtrack and they start that process right then. And because we have Monday coming and we have to do 5 different teachers need to not come to work that day or potentially expose anybody else. So there's just so many things that all of this was around timing. And so I'll stop, but I have told her this personally. I've tried to say it publicly and I will say it to you, all of you again. None of this stuff happens with our school district this year without Mary Rhodes' leadership and the things that she brings to the table. So I know she hates when I do this, but I do appreciate her leadership and none of that stuff happens without you. So thank you.
Well, Malta's dad, having been on the receiving end of one of those quarantine phone
Yes,
calls.
sorry about that.
I just appreciate, professionalism, and I'm sure that not everybody received the news as well as I did, but, I just think you've done a great job, and, I appreciate everything that you're doing, as everybody else has already said, but as I said, being on the receiving end, I got to hear exactly how it went, and, I think you did a great job, and one of the goals we have is, great customer service for our families, and so it's very obvious that you provide that, so thank you. Anybody else? All right, thank you. Which one's next?
All right, next up, we have Sandra Reyes, and I believe she is on Zoom for our nutrition program eval.
All right.
Sandra?
I'm on mute. Really fun thing. I'm going to share my screen with you now. Perfect. You see what I see, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for having me. We're gonna briefly review the nutrition program. First off, of course, I want to start off with going over things. We're going to review the strengths of the program, assessing data over the past 5 school years, and upcoming opportunities and goals for the next school year as well. Like Ms. Mary said, this past year and in March forward, as Mary called it, COVID blur, that was something new to us as well. And my staff especially, they did an amazing job. We just like every other program, we followed safety protocols, and we were actually able to make it through without losing any staff to having to have them quarantine or even be contracted of COVID-19 themselves. So very proud of that. You can see from here, our employees are following safe protocols, masks, gloves. We practice something called a 6-foot kitchen, where all the employees have to stay within 6 feet of each other. There's a specific training that Sodexo provides for this as well. From the pictures, you can see various methods that we implemented throughout the school year. Some of those were meal preparation for curbside pickup, meal distribution for buses, transportation, and so forth. During the 2019-2021 school year, things look a lot different. It was very non-traditional. We had an individualized meal service plan per building. I can say maybe 2 schools had a similar meal plan where they were still coming through the line and probably sitting down and eating, but a lot of our schools were either breakfast in the classroom, lunch in the classroom, grab and go breakfast, grab and go lunch. We did a lot to make sure that our students were keeping their distance. They were traveling in pods together, and we worked with the building administrators to make sure that we can meet their needs individually. If students were eating in the cafeteria, we made sure that a certain amounts were eating at one time and that the kids were distanced away from each other as well. During school closures, whether that was spring break, or maybe it was a day off or the next day, we tried to do everything we could to make sure we can provide a take-home meal or provide meal for a whole week, as we did our very first time in spring break. And now that we've become a little bit more experienced, we've continued to offer those options for them. We've also, like I said, provided curbside pickup at each school. We did it when the pandemic started in March, and we've been doing that and are still continuing to do that now, where we provide meals to them at curbside, and even working with our transportation and working with our facilities to transport food from one site to another, or from one site to multiple meal stops, which has been pretty amazing. COVID has not brought all bad things. We did have a period of school closure where we didn't have any students. And during that time, we took advantage, and together with the district, we were able to do some renovations. This in particular is the renovation at the high school, for the Taste 4 program. Not sure if you remember what that looked before, and I wish I had a picture to show you, but I just really wanted to show you the now and what that has transformed into. Maybe you remember there was 2 big walls that served absolute no purpose, and now those are gone. You can see straight into what's happening in the back of our kitchens. You also see a more open concept. We really wanted to give students the opportunity to move about a little bit more freely and see what their options were without being in line and having to stay in that line. We also included a double-sided salad bar, which is gorgeous. We've included 3 air screen coolers where students can have not only milk options, but multiple a la carte servings, salads, yogurts. Because of the number of students that have been on site, we really haven't had full use of it, but looking forward into the next school year, we're really excited. I know Dr. Butler is super excited to see what that's going to look like. She loves a lot of what's going on in here. And if I'm not sure that you can really see this, but if you have been to the building, we've also included a portion where you can pick up, it's kind of like a grab and go, where students will be able to pre-order, adults will be able to pre-order and then pick up at this specific window, grab it and go, which I'll talk about a little bit. Not only did we take the opportunity to improve the Grandview High School kitchen, but we also made changes to Martin City Cafeteria. Martin City Cafeteria prior to had a program called DYK, which is the food platform for the middle school. DYK is Did You Know? And it's still a great program, but we really wanted, and I know a lot of our administrators also wanted to see these changes for Foodie. What's awesome about Foodie is that it does offer a lot of live engagement with students. If you can tell from the little picture of Foodie, there's like a little Wi-Fi thing going on there. That's because it allows students to communicate electronically within the program. But also Foodie offers a lot of the Taste 4 flavors. You'll see global flavors. We've started to introduce foods when students came back to the school. We did start the program and we offer things like hummus, couscous, quinoa, just really fun dishes that kind of brings in the Taste 4 flavors, but then also has its own ring to it when it comes to electronics and the cleanliness of the look of the program. Like I said, Foodie is a very interactive program, and what we've done is included Upshow, and Upshow is a digital signage program. It allows students to participate in surveys, participate in questionnaires, participate in hashtag food, and then they upload a picture of their food of the day or themselves and friends, which is pretty cool because we want to continue that live engagement with them throughout. And they are middle school kids, so we know they love being on their phones when they're allowed to be on their phones in school. And so it also kind of brings in that touch of students being able to see what's on their phone digitally instead of having to look for a paper form or have to go on the computer online. So that's a really nice feature of the Foodie program, as well as Upshow. But we will also continue to offer the So Happy app, which is the one you can download on your phone now. You can easily build a menu and then formulate your carb counts, your calorie counts, multiple nutrient information. One new feature that will be implementing this upcoming school year is Sodexo My Way, which is the website landing page version of So Happy, but instead of having to do it on your phone, you can see it on your computer. It'll allow our paras to kind of move through it a little bit better when it comes to working with our students as well. Really cool thing about it, if we have people who are looking for a job or looking at local information or fresh pick information for the month, this is where they would find that information. Sodexo My Way is also the feature that we use for mobile ordering for our high school students and our teachers as well. So this is also going to be on the phone. So the mobile ordering then can be done online on a computer and on the phone as well. That way we're not limiting anybody. Although we did have a lot of support from our district, we also take a lot of initiative in making sure that we are able to provide for our schools as well when it comes to equipment and renovation and program updating. And through that, we were able to secure $21,000 overall for grants for new equipment or for upcoming meal delivery services updates that we may have. So that's pretty awesome, and we'll be able to spend it. We have been and will continue to spend it throughout. But overall, working with our district this year, it was really fun to be a part of the award ceremony for our high school graduates and being able to offer that $1,000 scholarship. We want to continue to do that. We want to continue to be involved with our students. We want to be able to engage with them and allowing them a career path in something that we love doing and we continue to do. But again, doing other things like wellness during Premier Edge, mindfulness, using those marketing promotions with students and making sure we are engaging with them. One really cool thing that we did this year is utilize 100% of our fresh fruit and vegetable program grant, which is over $127,000 of monies provided to us for fruits and vegetables, specifically for elementary students. But even with a decrease in students on site, we were still able to offer that to them. We also utilized the FFVP to provide meals to those who were probably picking up meals at Meadowmere or at our elementary aged schools as well. And, we were able to provide that even prior to this year and utilize those monies, just making sure that that's another way students can be introduced to fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, and we want to continue to do that for our students as well. Here we start getting into the assessment of our data. This graph kind of shows us the participation for breakfast, for lunch, for after school snack program, and for a la carte. And then this one will kind of break it down into a more of a numerical data. You can see that from 1920, there's more obvious changes to what our numbers look like. This is particularly because we had a COVID, and particularly because we had a decrease of students who were able to attend school starting 2019 in the month of March, which then brought down our participation. But prior to COVID, for months, August through February and mid-March, we were on trend. We were on trend to be at our breakfast or even further in our participation. After school snack, obviously, once March started, we switched from the National School Lunch Program over to the Seamless Summer Program, which kind of didn't allow us to offer those snack options. And then, of course, a la carte, we weren't able to offer that as well. But even through the pandemic, and even though we didn't have students on site, like I said, we did meal distributions. We did a lot of new innovative things that were new to us and was a complete experience for us. But we were getting ideas from a district here, a state up north, just kind of searching for the best way to kind of make it work for our community as well, and kind of just piecing it together and taking it day by day, making those changes that allowed us to continue to feed over 50,000 meals from March over to August, which was a pretty amazing thing to do. Then we can see the breakdown once we get to elementary. These numbers are reflective of this current school year, 2021 school year. These numbers include all elementaries, including Martin City K through 8. And this is showing the overall enrollment compared to our participation rate for breakfast and for lunch. Same thing for middle school. For middle school, this is only reflective of Grandview Middle School. And then, of course, these are our participation rates for our high school. One thing I really want to make sure that we all know is that during these times, we had students in periods. We started with 50 students, then we started with 60 and 70 and 80 and 90. We little by little, we had students, we were building our population. And the same thing went for breakfast and for lunch. Slowly but surely, we were approaching the students. We were making sure that if they didn't want breakfast at 7 a.m. in the morning, maybe they wanted it at 8:30. And then we shifted into encouraging them to eat breakfast through second chance breakfast, which is something we implemented this school year. We wanted to make sure that those students who maybe weren't going to the cafeteria, that maybe we were finding them in the hallways and saying, hey, you still have a chance at breakfast. It is completely free. You can still have your breakfast, take it to the classroom with you, and grab it and go. And same thing goes for our grab and go breakfast cart, which is something that we've had since prior year, where we parked up front, and then the students who were coming in through, even when they were coming later, we would wait for them and allow them to grab their breakfast and take it back to the classroom. And we want to continue to participate in those programs because we know that we've all been, even as adults, as soon as we wake up, maybe we're not hungry, but maybe an hour or two later into the day, once we're more awake, then maybe we want to have a little bit of breakfast. So that's something we want to continue to do with them, for them and for our middle school students as well. This graph here, the table here will show you the average daily participation for the 5 years. Again, you can see the trends and how they move as we had that drastic change in the 2019-2020 school year. Overall, our financial scope, this is what we look like comparing prior year to this year. Our operating expenses, which contributes to labor, which we did have a total of 30% labor decrease for various reasons. But even now, as we come into this current date now, we are starting to see the labor market people are looking for jobs. They're more active in jobs, and it's looking good for us as far as what next year goes. And hopefully we continue to bring in people, and our goal is to fully be 100% in operation for the next school year when it comes to meal services and breakfast and lunch services. We also want to go back to offering our after school snacks. So even if we do run under the Seamless Summer program, we also want to explore the National School Lunch Program when it comes to after school snacks. And then for a la carte sales, although we did start opening our a la carte sales and offering a limited amount of items for our middle school students and our high school students, we want to further continue that into elementary, into high school. For our high school, bring in those dipping dots that are on hold for us, and look into options for smoothies and slushies and things that the kids want, but are also still under the nutritional guidelines as well. Product cost, that did decrease over 46%. And just like how you went to the store, to the market, and you were looking for bread and you were looking for paper plates, you were looking for paper goods, the same thing occurred on our side. We had a lot of vendors who stopped producing certain products, who stopped producing this. So there was a period where you build a menu, you order the menu, and then you get an email saying, heads up, none of that is available anymore. Start all over again. So it was interesting to see that play out. And once March started and we couldn't even get paper plates, I think we did a rotation where we went from paper to foam to biodegradable to trays to, we have had a plethora of tray types, which is, I can go on about, but I won't. And then of course, together with a decrease in operating expenses and product costs, then we also saw that decrease in that client revenue. However, our program in the 2019-20 school year, which is prior year, even though we did see that those decrease in participation for breakfast and for lunch, we were still able to meet and exceed the financial commitment to Grandview for over $80,000. And then for this current school year, 2021, we did get that waived, but we are still seeing a positive in what our client is receiving back. So, which is really good because compared to districts who are very similar to us, you see a lot of them being the negative. So, we will continue to look at product, continue to do what we're doing, and probably improve that into the upcoming school year as well. That's our hope. Other things that we plan to do, like I said, we want to continue to engage with our families, to engage with our kids. We want to be able to interact more with our kids as well. We want to conduct more surveys. We want to be able to offer fruits and vegetables on the line where they're not limited to what they're being served on the plate, and instead they have a salad bar, full of new vegetables, new fruits that they've never had, and we want to go back to color and just fruitfulness and vegetables of all types, where students can get that at their own well as well. Other things that we want to do, we want to make sure that we are engaging with our older students, with our high school students. We want to develop the coordinator internship program. We want to be able to make sure that students who don't know what a culinary program is, or a nutritional program is, or a dietetic program is, kind of show that to them and see what their options are and what they are capable of doing in a field like similar to what we do now. Like I said, we want to continue to work with students, develop taste testing events, more communication revolving that, kind of get more input about what they want to see, what goes on the menu. French Fry Fridays is a thing that I've heard. Tater Tot Tuesday, kids really like their potatoes. Just kind of seeing that a little bit more from all age group levels as well. And then, of course, we want to continue to work with our commodities. As you may know, we are kind of not, the USD has decided to hold off, or Missouri, I'm sorry, has decided to hold off on our delivery. So kind of honing in on what it is we are doing with them, and then kind of making sure overall that we are utilizing properly when it comes to our commodities and our purchases for other vendors as well. It's really funny that I actually have a shirt sitting here that says Future Chef, because in March we were getting ready to do our Future Chef, and then that got canceled, and then this year got canceled. But this upcoming school year, we want to be able to bring that back and conduct those Future Chef challenges as well for our elementary students. And then we want to see a little bit more with our middle school students as well. I know Dr. Smith would really want to do something with his middle school kids, have a culinary throwdown or a cupcake throwdown of some sort, and kind of be able to work with the students in that manner as well. And then for the upcoming school year, we want to also continue to work with our families, our community, and making sure that they understand what impact a free and reduced application does. So we want to continue to work with our upstairs department, with Miss Lori and everybody else who's involved in making sure that we get those in as well. And that's all I have. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you very much. What questions do we have? So I guess my only question, and I don't know if I missed it, next year, since you mentioned the free reduced, so next year we intend to go back to students paying for their lunches, right? Like, and being able to choose what they want and all those things, correct?
We're looking at that. There are a variety of options, and we're taking a look to see what's best for us at this time.
Okay.
More, stay tuned, more to
Still here.
come.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, personally having two kiddos, one at the middle school, one at the high school, my middle schooler doesn't eat lunch because he's like, I only get one option and I don't like it. So he just wasn't eating. My high schooler brought his lunch because he wanted a salad bar. So he brought salads every day for himself. So, you know, I'm like, oh, we've got money in their account. I want to spend that. So personally, as a parent, that's where I was coming from with that. So perfect.
I know, I completely understand.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we have one more program you got for you tonight, and that is facilities. And we have Miss Angela Brantley. She should be on line. Angela.
Sandra, you may want to stop sharing.
I'll take over.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
Come on, click button. There we go. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to present the 2021 Facilities Program Evaluation. This evening, I want to focus on facilities' main goal, which are clean and safe schools. Custodial is to be managed to an APA 2 level, grounds to APA 3, and maintenance as well. And then also provide efficient and effective warehouse services and intra-mail delivery system for Grandview. That's our organizational chart. As you can see, we have a couple of vacancies, but that's the nature of the beast after COVID and the challenging labor market right now. And during this PowerPoint, I'm going to go over 3 main topics: the assessment of data, the strengths of each of the individual programs within facilities, and recommendations and goals to summarize at the end. As you can see, we completed for school year 2019-2020, 1,933 work orders, and for school year 2020-2021, 1,518 work orders. As you can see, there's a disparaging kind of difference in the numbers, but one, we had empty schools next year where we could get a lot more work done. And also this year, we've also battled COVID as well. And then also you should always see a steady decline in work orders because that means repairs are being done, schools are being better maintained. This year, we also began an exciting partnership, and we've been supporting Johnson Controls with all of the upgrades to our mechanical, water, building envelope, and lighting. And I'm excited to see how the outcome of this contract performance bond goes. We also have better understanding of our HVAC and plumbing and electrical infrastructures, and we have some awesome recommendations as we move forward and do a lot of strategic planning here in the future. Also, all districts' capital assets such as your HVAC equipment, hot water tanks, furnaces, doors, water coolers have all been tagged for PM maintenance on an electronic and more efficient basis. This is just a chart, and it's generated from School Do. Now, School Do does it in a calendar basis, so the numbers are going to look a little different. But I'm proud to say that collectively, over the last 2.2 years, my team, and since getting here, we've completed nearly 4,200 work orders to date. A little bit about the maintenance program, our strengths and our challenges as well. As of April 2021, we are, again, AHERA compliant and within our 3-year responsibility of having all schools checked and screened by a reputable environmental company. And actually this year we began sampling to actually know where we have certain areas that we can do proper budgeting as we build into the future and plan and upgrade in the future. As I mentioned, all high value assets have been shared. We also have excited to grow our team where we're doing most of our internal HVAC, our actual RTUs are being installed and wired by our team. I'm really proud of the guys for stepping out and learning and trying to bring value add to the district and save money and less outsourcing to engineering companies. Also, we implemented a district-wide key tracking system. So pretty much anybody that requests a key in Grandview, we place a key tag on it with that employee's name, and we track it at the facility operations office. So as people come and go from the district, we're able to tell what keys a person has. We've also streamlined all of our fire and safety inspections, and I'm happy to say that we have seen a steady decline in any citations issued during fire marshal inspections, and they say it's the best they've seen in years. As with any strengths, there come challenges of the program. Our biggest concern right now, and my guys spend a lot of time, the remaining HVAC equipment that hasn't been replaced since by our team or through the Johnson Control Project, the average age is 15 to 22 years. So we're doing our best to limp those along, but I'm excited as we've just been awarded that bond recently that we can pretty much use a lot of those resources that's been identified for HVAC upgrades for some exciting additional heating and cooling upgrades for the remainder of our schools outside of Johnson Control. We also have some concerns with our aging infrastructure when it comes to electrical and plumbing. And then also we're excited to do a school upgrade that will allow our guys to do more efficient work orders, do efficient tagging and PM program where it's a hands-on mobile app. That's actually just a couple of pictures of my guys actually installing units on Martin City back in the winter of 2020. And then this is them doing what we call a plumbing job where we're augering a drain, stop drain line in central office. Now, the strength of the grounds program, I hope everyone can agree with me that we've seen a dramatic turnaround overall in our grounds. We've planted thousands of flowers. Ben is now a certified playground inspector for the district. We've done a big, massive job at the high school for drainage in the back of the building. We were getting a lot of complaints from our neighbors, and in good stewardship, my grounds manager took this project on for herself, and we did a 400-foot trench and then installed French drains. And I'm happy to say the complaints are down. We checked with the neighbors personally, and they're all happy. And then we just started a similar project that at the middle school that was causing some of the same issues to our neighbors as well. I think it's safe to say that our guys are performing above the APA 3 level. We do our own slit seam, commercial mowing, aeration, and we actually mow twice weekly, which is more along the APA 2 level. Some of the challenges, we're having some labor market challenges as all of our vendors and neighboring businesses. Our pasture diesel motors have reached their life cycle. We have a need for an in-house applicator that's to avoid for outsourcing for fertilization of our grounds. And we want to possibly look at reevaluating the level of ground staffing being provided. This is some pictures of the drainage project. I tried to do an aerial shot, but those are my guys driving the backhoes, and that's a picture of what that was before. And sorry, I don't have a picture to date now, but because the grass is still growing in, but the neighbors are happy. For our custodial program, I do think the schools are a lot cleaner since 2019. We're headed in the right direction to be in compliance with the CSIP. We implemented as soon as possible and with the board's blessing, thank you for that, UV light disinfection. And with the UV light disinfection, we were able to minimize disruption to the staff and students that we did have in the building. And we generally were able to get areas back online within hours to maybe a few hours or half a day. All of our chemicals are EPA and CDC approved, and we had those going at the onset of the pandemic, and they will not be changed. We will continue to use the same products from here on out. We also standardized all restrooms, and it created a buying power and created some leverage for us to use our volume by having all standardized equipment and standardized dispensers. There's been more staff training, more staff development. We've gotten vendors to come in, do hands-on training with all of the head custodians on various topics. And also we implemented comment boxes in all school buildings that allow staff and students or parents or to just put a card in the box and just give, whether it's a concern or a compliment, it's there and it's a method for communicating with everyone. Challenges of the program, as with grounds, the labor market continues to be a challenge. Custodian is normally a very high turnover position, but we're trying to minimize that with different programs, incentives, and just building employee morale. Of course, we had to adapt like everyone to the pandemic. As Sandra and as Mary had to do, we had to provide support to them for all of those challenges of just managing through a pandemic and just what that looked like from day to day. Possibly to consider reevaluation High Grove and a couple of sites just to make sure we're at and able to maintain the aptitude within the building usage and square footage allotted. Also, most of our floor care equipment is reaching the end of its life cycle. And then also with the equipment, I would like to streamline it to be one manufacturer, make and model. So it's easier to train, develop, and people can go to each other's buildings and know how to operate equipment effectively. This is just a custodial APA level chart. Feel free to read that in your leisure. Here's just some of my custodial operations teams at work. That's Conwest Hallway, and that's the head custodians getting proper floor care cleanup and stripping and waxing training. And then that's our UV process. You'll see that the blacked out curtains in the Conwest office, and those are our machines down there. And we affectionately call them Gamora, Thor, Iron Man, and Groot. We do believe in a zero harm safety culture. Just today, we had a virtual safety walk on ladder safety with Sodexo corporate safety team, and it went very, very well. But we believe in knowing the 3 checks of safety for all employees, which is, do I know the job? Do I have the tools to do my job? And is my environment safe? And at any given time, I can walk in a building, you can walk in a building and ask my staff and that know that, and they're expected to know, and they probably will know. We're also proud to be part of the district's safety committee, facility improvement team. We've already passed 2 educational safety audits in the last 2 years. We conduct monthly building, playground, and bleacher inspections with our head custodians. Eric sends out weekly safety messages and huddles to the entire facility team, and the managers are required to do mandatory safety walks. Just to wrap it up in the end, this is some of the comments and recommendations that I observed since I've been here with the district, but a few that I really would like to point out as we think along the lines of strategic planning and what that bond money is going to look like is to really, really do a deep dive into our plumbing and our electrical state of our schools. That's kind of outside of Sodexo's scope, and I would like it to be a skilled trade where it's master plumbers and master electricians opening up every nook and cranny of our buildings just to see where we may have code issues, where we need upgrades, and just things we need to do to plan for the future to support our infrastructure. And with that being said, that is our lovely picture with the superintendent and the whole operations team and a blend of it. And then I'm going to briefly introduce my boss, Jeff Butler. He would just like to come on and speak on the behalf of Sodexo very briefly.
Thank you, Angela. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank Grandview for the opportunity to be your service partner. It's already been a quick 3 years, and you know, take a moment to recognize Angela for her passion, her commitment, and all that she's doing to lead her team to meet the expectations and needs of the Grandview School District around facilities management. And especially, you know, as she touched on a little bit, the adaptability of her and her team this past year with the pandemic and all the changes and things that we're developing around that. So thank her for that. And I would be remiss in not thanking Ms. Cook for all her support, and just wanted to wish her all the best in retirement and the next chapter, and you too, Lori. So appreciate, again, all the support. Back to you, Angela.
And with that being said, does anyone have any questions for me?
I have a question. How many certified, just in a general number, HVAC and plumbing and electrician personnel do you have on staff?
I'm sorry, I could barely hear his question.
How many certified or licensed HVAC personnel and plumbing personnel that are on staff that complete these projects?
It's per our scope and agreement, we are not required to have certified electricians and plumbers on staff, but all of my guys have a blend of seasoned experience of years of maintenance. I do have one certified HVAC technician with his EPA license. The other one is taking his test in April. Also, my lead HVAC guy is currently studying to be a certified electrician at this time.
Other questions? I just have one for you.
Yes, ma'am.
On the work, see like a most common theme? Like what would you consider the top thing that needs to be fixed on those 1,500 work orders that you had?
The top thing, ooh, that's really hard to say. I would say it's a little bit of everything, but I would say roofs. And in the last 7 to 8 months, we've just learned a lot about our plumbing infrastructure that really, really drove my focus to really want those assessments done, and just electrical, just from a code compliance as we upgrade, add loads to the building, add technology to the building. I just want to make sure that we have the things that we need. And then also with the plumbing, I've also found out that we don't have a lot of isolation valves. So when I have to go to repair a bathroom, a lot of times I have to wait, or I have to shut down a whole wing of a building, and some couple of buildings I have to shut the whole building down just to make a simple repair. So those are some of the types of things I'm discovering, and that's the reason why I'm asking for one of those. I know we could do a kind of an overall facility assessment, but I think it's key that we do a more specialized deep dive assessment.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you so much, Angela. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
That completes program evals.
Perfect. All right, this one does require a motion. Then I'll jump to it at once. Nobody's on that page anymore, are you?
I move we approve the program evaluations for health services, nutrition services, and facilities and grounds program evaluations as presented.
Second.
Evaluations for health services, nutrition services, and facilities and grounds as presented. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, passes unanimous. Thank you. Moving on, CNI update.
Yes. As usual, we've been taking and bringing to you throughout the course of the years since we began implementing iReady. And so we shared some of that information with you previously. And so as we've reached the end of the year, I think we have some updates and things. And so Dr. King and her team will present to you.
Okay, we are going to present to you the end of the year iReady and show you growth over the year. I'm going to start off by saying it's been a trying year, as we have witnessed through our program evals, with lots of variables in and out, and that shows in our data. What you will see today is it's all over the place, some highs, some lows, and some head scratchers. A word of caution as we go through this to try and make sense of this completely. Or make a great deal of sense of this would be an exercise in infertility. What we can look for are trends and ask a lot of questions. I think as I talked to my team today, as we were sitting trying to really go through a lot of this, if all we come out of COVID this past year is to look at a diagnostic test and to quantify learning loss and then track kids into group and remediation, it will be a terrible failure of imagination. I think we're better than that. I think we can do a lot better than that, but I will now turn it over to Mr. Sizemore, and he's going to kind of walk us through, and then at the end, I can go through some of our initial thoughts and then answer any questions that you all have.
Okay. Is it okay if I stand over here as long as I use my teacher voice? Because
You're fine.
like a tribunal there. So just a second here, I'm going to get on the Zoom so everybody can see. Just a second. Okay, so it's great to be here in person. There were several of you on the board that weren't here last time I actually presented in person. So I want to take a second to introduce myself. Scott Sizemore, Director of Instructional Technology. And tonight I'm going to share with you some end of year iReady data, and also from our high school, some USA test prep data. So I know that for some of you, this is kind of a review, but I always kind of want to start with this just so that we all are on the same page. about what iReady is and how the assessment works. So it is a nationally norm reference assessment. So it is in essence comparing our students with lots of other students who take this test in the country. It's taken 3 times a year. So at the beginning of the year, and then in the winter, and then at the end of the year, so that we can measure growth across those tests. And then it is an adaptive assessment. So it starts out at the same level for a student at their grade level. And then based on how they answer questions, it can either lower or go higher in order to determine where they are, what their grade level placement is. So it's a little bit different for each student. So just again, a review of what we're going to see is tiers where students score. So the green is tier 1, and that's students that are on grade level. The yellow is tier 2, and that's students who are 1 grade level below their current grade. And then tier 3 is students who are 2 or more grade levels below their current grade. And then I introduced to you at the beginning of the year, this year iReady also did something that's really helped us drill down more with those students that are below grade level, and also to identify those students who are really advanced. And so they actually added 2 additional tiers. One identifies students that are 3 or more grade levels below, and then another one tells us students who are actually above grade level. So that's really useful for us in helping us really identify groups of students and further break things down. So we're going to start with math. And this is the district overall. So here on the right is our fall. That's where we started. And then on the left, we have our spring. And then you can see the growth that we had there on the left, plus 25%. So we went from 12% to 37% of students. This is K through 8 in math this year. This is from that fall assessment to the spring assessment that we took at the end of May. Oops. So kind of to break that down with the 5-tier system and to give you kind of an indication overall how we did in moving students, this is where we started based on that 5-tiered placement. And then this is actually where we ended up. And so that can be, you know, it's a lot of colors. It's kind of difficult sometimes to really see what that means. So a couple of takeaways that we can see from this data is if we look at the number of students who were in those tiers of on grade level or above grade level, we can see between the fall and the spring assessment that we actually moved 570 kids in the district out of the red and the yellow and into the green. So that's definitely a positive. And then if we look on the other end with students who are 2 grade levels or 3 or more grade levels below, we moved 285 kids out of those tiers and into either the yellow or the green tier. Obviously, you can still see that we still have a lot of students who are 3 or more grade levels below. So we have 384 students. So it's not all just, you know, great news. We see positives, and we also see evidence that we still need to continue to work and move our kids to be on grade level. So now we're going to break this down by actual grade level and then by building. So this is similar to that first slide that I showed you. You can see in kindergarten, we moved 47% more students, so from 21% to 68% into the on grade level. This is typical of what we see with kindergartners because many of them come in, you know, they don't have a whole lot of background in academics, so they learn a lot, they pick up a lot, and they typically, we see a lot of growth at this grade level. One thing that we were interested in, we knew that you would be interested in, is how did the virtual students do compared to the students who were in person throughout the year. So as we go through these, you're going to see there on the bottom left, the growth of the virtual students pulled out of the cohort, and you can see that compared to the full cohort, which was plus 47. The virtual students were plus 72. Just a word of caution with our virtual data. we can't really have a high confidence in the validity of the data compared to what we normally have, because there were so many variables that would not traditionally be there with a standardized test like this. So typically, with a test like this, students are taking the test at the same window. They're taking the test in their classrooms. The teachers have testing protocols that they follow. So they know when they can help a student, when they can't help a student. To me, this is, I have no real data evidence of this, but thinking as a parent myself, plus 72 in kindergarten, if I were the parent of a kindergartner and they were taking this assessment at home on an iPad, I would be helping them just because they're a kindergartner taking a test. So as we go through the virtual data with the grade levels, you're going to see a lot of just back and forth. And we think that we'll know a little bit more in the fall when we look and see where these kids are after they come back and take a test in person. We'll know a little bit more, but right now it's just to kind of give you a sense, because we know that you would be interested in where those students are.
It's not pretty cool. I want to clarify
Yeah.
something on this because we're going to
Sorry.
start more of these. The pyramid, is that reflective of the overall or the virtual?
So
That's
the
47.
pyramid is the whole cohort.
Okay,
And then what pops down there at the bottom on the left is the virtual students, is
Within
they
that.
moved where the whole cohort moved 47%, the virtual students moved 72.
oh, okay, so we don't have a graph virtual.
Correct. It's just showing you kind of a comparison to that green
Okay.
number.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. I just
No,
wanted
no
to make sure
problem.
Before we get too far.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is taking that kindergarten data again in math and looking at the building level. So what we have here is the percentage of students who were on or above grade level at the fall assessment. And then you'll see it move to the spring assessment. And then you'll see a plus the number of a percentage of growth that we had in that grade level. So again, this is kindergarten. We expect to see a lot of growth, but you can see some differences between the buildings here in the amount of growth that we saw. Moving on to first grade, again, as Dr. King kind of pointed out, the data is really all over the place. Some of the really predictable patterns that we've seen over multiple years, some of them are not there. Some are, but a lot of them are not there. And so, we're going to work to try to figure out why that is. Obviously, the situation over the past year has played a big role in that. But you're going to see data even from with the same grade level across buildings. You're going to see some disparities in the amount of growth that we see in the students' growth. So this is first grade math overall plus 30. And then we see kind of the opposite here where the virtual students are only plus 18. So we actually see lower performance with the first grade students, which is really different from what we saw with kindergarten. And then looking at the building level, this is where we started. And then you can see that growth from a plus 42 at Martin City Elementary to a plus 11 at Butcher Green. So really a wide amount of growth across the buildings. Second grade plus 26. And our virtual students are plus 17. So overall, other than kindergarten, we do see pretty much it's a lower trend for our virtual students. They actually grew less. But again, we don't want to read too much into that because of the potentially the variables that may make it not as reliable as it normally would. And then second grade across buildings. Again, we see from 39% to a plus 11%. So again, and you really also don't see a pattern among a building. So you don't see one building consistently outperforming all the other buildings at every grade level. You'll have one building that greatly outperforms the others in one grade level. Next building, it'll be another grade level or another building that outperforms. So just a lot of things for us to really kind of dig through to find cause for. Third grade overall, we had a plus 27 and a plus 23 for virtual, so somewhat similar there. And then again, looking at the building growth, See a Meadowmere with a +40. The other 4 buildings were pretty much statistically even in their growth. Fourth grade +27, +23 for virtual students. And here we see Belvedere. So we saw another building earlier, Martin City Elementary, with a tremendous amount of growth. Now here in fourth grade, we have +52 at Belvedere and all the way down to a +14. So lots of differences. And fifth grade, +24, +27 for the virtual students. Not as big of a disparity here in the amount of growth. Then we move into middle school, since we just have 2 buildings here. I just did the building chart here to show you the growth. We'll see some differences here, especially in math. So in 6th grade, GMS had some really good growth and not quite as much at Martin City Middle. 7th grade, not as big of growth at GMS, but still significantly different from Martin City Middle. And 8th grade, you see kind of the opposite. Martin City Middle has more growth than GMS. So that's math. So now moving to reading. In reading, we went from a 23% in the fall that were on or above grade level to a 20% or to a 43% in the spring. So a +20 there. And then looking again at that 5-tier data, this was our fall data. And now spring, and the number of students that we moved, 442 moved out of red and yellow and into green. So a positive there. And then 207 students moved out of red and into either yellow or green. But again, we still have the 421 students in grades K through 8 who are reading 2 or more grade levels below. That's a slow transition. So looking at kindergarten for reading, we saw a +55. So again, that's what we expect to see. With virtual, we saw a +45. So actually, with reading, it was lower with kindergarten, where it was much higher with math. And then looking again at the building growth, lots of good growth across the board. But I mean, Belvedere and Meadowmere being in the 90s, you know, we could say 96% of our Belvedere kindergartners are going to first grade reading on grade level. That's a real positive that we can build on. First grade +30, +24 for virtual students. And then again, we start to see kind of these disparities across buildings and not always the same one. Second grade +19, +24 for virtual students. All the way from 33, +33 to just a +9. Disparities there. Third grade, +19 and +15. Not as big of a disparity at third. In fourth grade, a +14. Virtual students, a +17. So we did see lower, I'm sure you've noticed in the upper elementary grades, we've seen a lower amount of growth in reading than we did in the lower grades. And then just across the board in fourth grade reading, not a great amount of growth. Fifth grade, +9 for all students, and virtual pulled out is +5. buildings. Again, not a whole lot of growth at the 5th grade level. For middle school, 6th grade reading, from fall to spring, plus 10 for both buildings. 7th grade, Meadowmere, Mark City, excuse me, with 15 and GMS with 6. And 8th grade, same amount of growth across the 2 buildings. So that kind of wraps up the iReady portion of it. We haven't presented this next set of data to you in the past, but we wanted to because we know that providing data on the high school is also really important. iReady has not in the past provided grade level assessments beyond 9th grade. So we haven't used iReady in the past. Next year they will be, so we will be extending iReady use into the high school, which will allow us to really follow our students beyond middle school and really track them all the way to 12th grade in reading and math. USA Test Prep has been used by the high school for a few years now. It was really just used as a tool by them to as an item bank, so it provided items for assessments. But then a couple of years ago, we started using it because it provides actual EOC practice assessments for Missouri in-course assessments. One thing to note in this data is that we do not yet have the same confidence in this data that we do in the iReady data. So iReady we've been using for several years now. We've compared it to the Missouri map test and have seen that it is very similar. And we see the very similar data. And with USA Test Prep, because not having testing last year, and this is really the first year that we've really had actual EOC data from fall until spring. So we want to present it to you. So we want to make sure that you have that bit of information that until we get the EOC results back this year and are able to compare it, that we don't necessarily have the same amount of confidence in the validity that we do with iReady. So USA Test Prep breaks it down into the domain. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into that, but basically this is the English 2 EOC. The assessment is broken into those 4 domains on the right, and then we can see the growth from fall to spring across the high school in those 4 domains. Same kind of caveat that we had with the virtual data at the elementary level. Our high school kids were virtual a lot. So many of these assessments were taken at home. They were not taking in a testing environment that we would normally have students in that's more controlled. So that's just, again, important information I think to keep in mind, but it does kind of give us a sense of the growth that we saw or did not see in these tested areas this year. So Algebra 1 is broken down into 6 of these domains, and we saw very little growth there across the board. Government, 3 domains. Students actually started out pretty well in this, but we did not see a tremendous amount of growth across the year. And then biology, again, 6 domains. And here we actually saw a couple of negative growth points in a couple of these domains.
Yeah, I think we saw some negative ones in there as well, actually. I thought I saw, or maybe it was one of them, I thought I saw the number went down. Maybe it was this one before that. That one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Good eye. Ecosystems should be -6, not +6. So that's the data that we have to provide to you tonight. We're going to continue across the summer, really drilling down more into the iReady data and really trying to identify some of the causes that we think might be associated with what we see. And so I will turn it over to Dr. King.
So one of the things that we're doing right now with our with summer school is we are giving the iReady assessment to any of our kiddos that came to summer school today and tomorrow, just to see in 2 weeks, can we see anything, any measure of growth, because we really focus in on readiness. So we're going to take that data and compare it to those kiddos that like straight assessment. When you took iReady at the end of the school year 2 weeks ago and you took it now, are we seeing anything there? I wanted Scott to go ahead and put up the domains that we actually test on, because one of the things that we have done for the past 3 years is looking for trends. In kindergarten, first, second, on up, is where are we always scoring low at? In what domain in reading are we always scoring low? And what we have found is in kindergarten, in first grade, it's high frequency words and vocabulary. Consistently, our students are not, that's where they're weakest at. So that's, I mean, we know that's a gap. The same as it was here. From then on, every grade level after that till 8th grade, it is phonics. Our kindergartners, our first graders are not missing phonics. They're not scoring low, but every grade after that, it's phonics and it's informational text. They're not understanding informational text. They're not comprehending informational text. And when they get to middle school, it's phonics, informational text, and literacy text. They're not being able to comprehend and vocabulary. So they add that on as well. So what that tells us and what we can surmise from that is we implemented Orton Gillingham phonics 2 years ago. Maybe our kindergarten and first graders are getting a really good dose of that. It's not trickled yet to the rest of our kiddos. We're hoping to see a good trend there. But if we're not comprehending informational text and we're comprehending literacy text, and we're not comprehending the vocabulary, we're not understanding vocabulary, there's a reciprocal nature between reading and writing. Good readers are good writers. Good writers are good readers. And we know that we have a gap in our writing. I mean, that's what we know, and we know we need to really shore up our writing. We've implemented a new writing curriculum. COVID hit. Nobody got PD on it. We've kind of just said, here it is. You can use it, but we definitely know we're going to need to work really hard on our writing, because we know there's a reciprocal nature between reading and writing. If those are questions we start asking ourselves. Is that what we really need to hone in on? Because if that's truly, if I'm a good reader, I'm a good writer, and vice versa, we do know that we can, an intervention for being, for poor reading is focusing on my writer, focusing on how to write. Vocabulary, you can really hone in on a lot of missing vocabulary skills by writing. So I think that's definitely where we need to take a look at. I mean, I think those are as we look at these things. When we look at math, we have said over and over again, our kids don't have number sense. Our kids don't understand numbers. That's not a gap. There's no number sense missing as a gap when we look at iReady. But what is missing is algebraic thinking or kindergarten on. There's a gap. Measurement and data missing, completely missing, and then geometric thinking, because they start giving that in kindergarten. If you have 10, if I have 3 things, how do I get to 10? And the kindergartners need to start thinking in that way. That's been the gap. So maybe we've spent too much time. Again, we don't want the pendulum to go all the way where we don't want to do number sense. We don't want to go all the way and say we're not going to worry about that anymore. Maybe we've done that. Now we need to make sure that we fill in those other gaps. So understanding of how we use the test and how we use data to inform our instruction is key to drilling down to this. I don't think we could take this necessary data that's got to and make a lot of sense out of it, because you saw it's all over the place. But what we can do is look for trends, look back a few years and decide, how do you take this, compare that to our curriculum? Is our curriculum lining up? Have we identified the correct essential standards? What does that look like in the classroom day in, day out? How are we holding teachers accountable for the curriculum? Have we done what we need? Have we given the teachers the right kind of resources that they need? Have we provided them with the right kind of professional development? So I think these are the kinds of questions we need to start asking ourselves and owning owning where we are. Historically, our students have not performed where we know they're capable of performing. Is this data surprising? No, it's not surprising. It's curious that it's so all over the place, but it's not surprising. What we do with this is on us now. Any questions we can answer?
Questions?
To what level you gonna break down the data? I mean, I see it's going down, but the school level will go down as far as demographics that be presented as well, or.
All right, it's gonna go down to teacher level, it's going down to student level. What we have to do in the buildings is it's gotta go down to student level. I mean, it's no longer just here's where we are, is I want it down to student. What is this student missing and what are you doing for that student? But part of this whole process is the revamping. And if you remember that when every principal came and presented their school improvement plan last year, part of their plan was the retraining of the professional learning communities. Part of professional learning communities is not what I teach, it's what students learn. So how do we start owning what students learn? So when all the principals come to present their school improvement plans, a question you should ask is, how are we making sure students learn? How are you checking every single day in professional learning communities that your students have learned per grade level? And I hope you wrote down, what are those grade levels that weren't performing as well? How are you checking your fourth grade reading? How are you in fourth grade reading professional learning communities and checking their data and asking what's going on? Because that's where it meets, is when the teachers are discussing at student level, what is the student not doing? Where is their point of difficulty for the student? Where are things tangled in this student's brain that they can't make sense of this? And what are we doing as the teacher to make sure that we're untangling it for them? Because that's where we're going to make the difference. Just talking about it at the bird's eye level is not going to matter. It's going to matter when we get down at that student level.
Can I ask a question related to that student level? So when you say, what are you as an instructor doing to help that student? How are you going to manage that when, you've got the full year data, they're now moving into a new one, right? It's a new instructor, new year, right? Are you providing that data and saying, here's where they were, now run with that? Or are you just waiting till the fall already and then basically starting over every year? Or is there some way to prepare and provide that information to the next instructor?
Yeah, so they have this iReady is cumulative. They have it. We also don't just check. It's not just iReady. There's 3 points of data that all teachers have when they get their new group of students. They also have something called it's a baseline of reading assessment. It's called BAS. It's based on Fontes and Pinnell. So they're actually going to get a reading assessment that's handed to them, a folder that has running records and things that the teacher's actually done from the last year, like what the student was doing as a reader, what the student was doing as a writer. That's at our elementary up to our middle school level. We have unit assessments based on, we have spent the last 3 years vertically aligning all of our core content areas, K-12, ELA, math, science, social studies were done this year. We spent this year creating proficiency scales. Proficiency scales are nothing but an understanding for teachers and students of, at this standard, what does proficiency look like? So that the student, there's no mystery for the student. If you want to be proficient, this is what it takes to be proficient. This is what it's going to look like for you to master the standard. It just takes the mystery, it lifts the veil up for students and teachers. So we've spent a great deal of time doing all that work. I think that we need to continue the path. I was talking to Dr. Rodriguez earlier, there's no magic pill or no magic thing we can do here to suddenly make everything get better. It's doing the work, the hard work that we've already started doing and staying consistent with it and continuing. And it is hard and it's not fun and it's not, well, to me it's fun, but I'm weird, but it's not glamorous stuff. It's getting in there and it's hard and it's taking each student and it's like, what are they missing and what is it going to take to make the student be successful? And it's day in and day out and it can be done. It's being done nationwide. It's being done and this work can be done here.
So since iReady is cumulative, barring this last year, that's who knows, whatever, that instructor can kind of look back and see, oh, on grade, not on grade, not, and then kind of figure it out from there and see was there maybe an anomaly like for this last year, for example.
Correct.
Yeah, and the conversation with even principals at the principal PD that we were talking about is showing this data and then like, where do we go from here? I mean, because it has been a year and a half. And so, there has been a lot of whatever you want to call it, things that are outside of our control. At the end of the day, we're gonna have students to return to us in the fall. And we have to make sure that we're showing growth. We don't have any choice. We have to make sure that we are investing in our kids and that we can show that they are able to continue to progress. We know that our kids are capable of that. So what strategies can we implement? What support can we give our teachers? What professional development can we continue to make sure that we are implementing that's going to help give them the tools that they need for our students to be successful as we move forward? We can all look back at the last year and a half. We can make any number of different, whatever you want to call it. There are a lot of different reasons for our students to be where they are. At the end of the day, we need to make sure that we are showing growth over the next 2 years, and we can show our students that they can be successful. This is what the success looks like, and that we are providing that for our teachers, that we can make this happen with our students. But we have to help them, we have to guide them, and again, in a time that, like I said at the beginning of the meeting, we're still going to have full classrooms for the first time. We're still going to have a lot of challenges to that, but we still are owning what the data looks like right now.
I think I want to be really clear. It is, our students are not broken, and they're resilient. And if they think their job, if in any way, shape, or form they think that coming to school, if they think their job is to come to school so we can fix them, their heart's not going to be in it. And the same token goes for our teachers. If they think their job is to come to school to fix kids, their heart's not going to be in this. It's about the learning, and it's about coming in and doing what they're called to do because they're passionate about their job and they're passionate about kids. And I think that's where this message needs to be. It's not about fixing anything because we're not broken. We have learning gaps that have existed long before COVID, and they can be addressed, and they can be. And our kids are capable of so much more than this data is showing. And our teachers are capable of rising to any of these occasions. I truly believe it. And I don't want anybody to say, look at this and go, oh my gosh, this school's broken, or these kids are broken, or the system's broken. It's not. It is our honor. And I believe every teacher in this district feels this way. It's our honor to be able to educate these children and let them see the potential that they have. And it's mine. Thanks.
What other questions do we have?
So you say you're going to drill down to the teacher and the student level, but this has always been an anomaly to me. But we have teachers who are more successful than other teachers. How are we using those teachers as resources for our other teachers?
Absolutely. I mean, we've done a lot of work with what teachers are making the most growth. It's not necessarily just the teachers that the kids are scoring the highest, because they might have got kids that were scoring higher to begin with. But if you notice in Mr. Sizemore saying this, the growth, like it showed how much growth was actually being made. And that we had that by teacher, how much growth was actually being made. And I think that what we're looking for is maybe not 1 year of that. It's trends over year after year after year, which teachers are consistently making that most growth overall, and then by domains. Like which teachers are, like, if I break it down by domain of phonics, which teachers are consistently showing that growth in phonics or algebraic equations, or who is consistently doing it, and what are they doing, and how do we learn from them? And that's the beauty and of collective efficacy that we talked about, is teachers learning from teachers in the professional learning communities, and how do we tap into that knowledge? So absolutely, that is the beauty of collective efficacy. Of we're better together.
I have a couple based on what you just said. One earlier, you were mentioning the new curriculum implementation. I can't remember. Started with an O that you said. Thank you.
We call it OG.
Okay, let's go with OG. I like that. So when you're implementing a new curriculum like that, in a normal year, you said this wasn't normal, we couldn't get it, but how much PD is provided? And then I think earlier you mentioned something about when you were talking about the PD that was happening recently, following up in 2 weeks and doing those touch points. So how much PD is provided and then how much follow-up is there in a normal year?
So Orton Gillingham was actually started 2 years ago, and it was an outside organization that comes in to teach it, this where we sent them to do it, because it's actually a nationally, you can look it up. Orton Gillingham it's a phonics group that's been around for a very, very long time, very nationally known and very highly accredited. So we ended up, and they trained him over in Overland Park. So we actually sent teachers to it, and we started lower K, like K2, actually at our preschool through 2, and then we started sending upper grades. And we ended up actually going through our middle school as well. So they've all been trained, and then we keep a spreadsheet to make sure who all's been trained, who hasn't been trained. And we send our building principals too, because the missing link is if we don't have our building principals trained, so how do they follow through to know if it's being implemented correctly or not? And then we kind of laid down the gauntlet is it's non-negotiable 30 minutes phonics instruction a day in your classrooms. And then how that works out with building principles, and then if they some do more, some do less, kind of thing. And so then that becomes then the pattern or the thought process for that. It's keeping up with the training, because now we're gonna have new teachers. We got an influx of new teachers. How do I make sure that they're all trained? We don't just assume because Orton Gillingham's been done, everybody's gonna know how to do it again. So it's making sure that everybody gets trained, everybody gets followed through with it on that. It's being a writer, all the resources we're getting for being a writer. So what we did this year is we spent time training the instructional coaches to make sure the instructional coaches are trained on being a writer. And we took several teachers, volunteer teachers, who wants to be trained on this to start being try it out, see what it's going to be like. And then next year will be a full-on implementation of training teachers in the buildings.
So follow up to that, related to the comment you made before to Dawn's question about the teachers that are performing at a high level. So how much autonomy is given to teachers when they are, getting their children to perform? When there's new curriculum, they say, well, the way I've done it is great, it's working well, I have really high test scores, I don't necessarily need to try something different. Do they get that autonomy to do that, or is the expectation that they are going to implement something new?
That's a hard question to answer. It's going to depend probably a little bit on the building principal, and it's probably going to depend on the grade level they're in. It would be like, hey, let's all be together on this. Let's all try it. Let's all give it a try, kind of thing. And then within their building, within their classroom, they're probably given somewhat of autonomy, but they're all probably also said, we're going to do 30 minutes. Give us a try. We're all going to implement this together. With that, I think when we can look at right now, as a district, you got 47% of your kids reading on grade level. We need to do something.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of where we stand on that.
I'd also say a lot of those teachers are involved in the process anyways. We've always had a collaborative process to make those kinds of decisions and things. And so they're usually, like she was talking about, the alignment of the curriculum at each one of the grade levels, K-12 and each one of the subject areas. That was a committee that did that, made up of some of the best teachers that we have in the district. And so many of them are already involved in those processes as well. So, and usually they're not the ones saying, what I'm doing is just fine, what I'm doing. They're the ones asking us for more. And what's best, what's the latest and greatest, teach me, help me, let me make it better. That's not usually been our approach. I usually don't hear from those teachers saying, no, I'm good, we shouldn't have to do any of this. They're usually the ones wanting more. So that's kind of been, but they're still involved in the process.
Okay. Perfect. Any other questions?
Thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
So this is just informational. So we still have a little bit left to go. Do we just take a quick bio break? I'll just keep, yes, okay. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, what do we want? 5? 5, let's do it.
Not my meeting.
Come back at
There's
45
3
after.
stalls in the waiting room, so.
Like, count.
I couldn't wait. 3 shifts.
Text.
All right. Steph failed us tonight. I'm ready for dinner. No dinner.
This next.
I was waiting for them.
Popcorn did not tide me over.
I was waiting for them to bring something else in, because you see right between close, open and close. And I was like,
I'm ready for a pizza.
Lori, I wasn't ready for you to be.
Honestly, like, can we DoorDash something? Like,
Because that's happened to me more times than.
Well, I was like, it won't open. That would be my luck.
Oh, my luck total.
For sure.
okay.
Did you explode it?
I was waiting for that.
Well, it didn't rip right, so I was like, crap.
I had to use the teeth method percentage in the Grandview schools of non-native English.
Non-native English speakers, we probably have. let's say, about 11%.
11%, yeah.
Yeah,
It fluctuates
it's
almost
growing.
10% a year. We actually
the
dropped
white cheddar was good too.
about 2 years ago, and in the last 2 years, we've been increasing this rate. So
So we didn't have snacks.
And what about the kids?
Do what?
We were hoping to.
Premier response
I
over
normally
the
try to
years.
eat before I
has
came,
been about
but I didn't have
78%.
time.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, so
The
that's
last
slow
year
pitas,
was
it's
been
fine.
difficult,
So
because of
I definitely thought about ordering a pizza and having
trying to
to
track that, so I can't give
We
you.
could have done
that. Because a lot of it's based upon what we get.
What's
from
that?
families. 76.
I just looked at the agenda and I'm like, oh, I'm way off.
My 7th year
time.
here, it's always been right around that.
I figured I was way too high.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
told her when I sent it, I said, I hope I'm way too
Yes,
high.
ma'am.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna be way too
I'm just
high.
here to see,
No.
you know, just, I've just been curious. I mean, what are you, you know? Most of my students.
You picked a good meeting.
Oh, yeah.
You got-
On
you
the
got-
one or something. Okay, I remember this.
Yeah.
I see the right now. I only gave it,
You know, I didn't
So,
yeah.
That's awesome.
I was
People are transitioning. That ding dang off.
Okay.
Yeah. She started doing other stuff in there.
expanded school, college.
Just gotta do it. So you should not have to look at her. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, just, yeah.
Get it
So
all.
I've done more than enough. But in the inner city, the city wasn't, we had, the people had. The wage earners hadn't recovered. Yeah.
Yeah.
In that.
I didn't order. I was here off.
First ever private.
You can see how he's probably here too.
Hello, Miss Cordier.
Oh, you're not.
Ready for that beautiful smile.
There we go.
Hi, Miss Cordier.
Okay,
everybody's back. My turn to go.
Okay, bye.
MBA. Salvation, finance or something like that before. But very similar to what we did. So the teachers refer. Who were struggling. They were running. And in a very friendly way.
So since we can do time, this is more all.
Tested to see what specifics.
I think we have everyone else.
Right, reading language.
We forgot.
We forgot the problems. Well, medical sport.
Sure.
What was missing?
That's too long. No, it's all right. We're all weak. Or this teacher. That's. Right, take those. Sports. They didn't have some more.
Attachment number 2 is on this, I think just the main thing is. Yeah. We'll have a longer, I guess, put it later.
Idea was well and below there. Staff community, you know.
Okay, I could have, yeah, but I needed, no.
I saw their trials right now.
Oh my gosh. We should go.
Yeah,
Really?
let's go.
Send them that video. Oh, Retta, I didn't know, but you, don't pretend you don't know how really.
I would have been down.
It's pretty dramatic. I hope it's- we always have a time.
Resources.
Like, I gave you an attachment. I know.
Just market. Some things like that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Should I go ahead and pull that? Should I go ahead and pull that? Go ahead and pull that, because that's really where I focus my world.
Or no comment. So it's like, okay.
5 minutes is not long. As long as it's the rest here. Executive session. There's not enough stalls.
I will say,
Yes.
this is
But
only.
go in shifts, you know?
Just
saying.
I told you there was 3 stall and 9 women.
Right?
Math is hard.
Especially for the guys.
So is it like the movement skills or the skills? What we found was individual skills. This kid just. That stage. So it ended up being a question. Individual skills.
Here's the point. Up to that. Good apple. That's not good.
It goes in, it jumps like a quicker then.
That's one-on-one. I mean, you change lives.
That's amazing. I agree with that.
Nobody saw
Every.
All right. Well, thank you for bearing with us with our little bit of bio break here. We will get right back at it for workforce excellence. Nothing submitted. All right, keep moving on.
The good stuff.
The good stuff.
I beg your pardon.
It's all about perspective.
It is about perspective. We definitely have a few more things to go over. So when we talk about all the things that are going to fund everything that we're talking about on this side, we have this side. So we will talk about a budget amendment here. So let's go.
Yeah, before you, we have our final budget amendment for the 2021 fiscal year. Kind of remind you that attachment 2 is kind of, it has all the meat of what the amendment really is involved. As far as our operating transfers, revenue adjustments and expenditure adjustments. On the operating transfers, We had not moved the money over from the tech plan from our operating funds to our capital projects funds, so we need to do that. That really is a net zero impact because then we just reverse the expenditures out of one fund into the other. Similarly, we had previously done a transfer for some equipment under the ESSA grant. And we did a budget amendment because what they purchased did not meet that threshold, so we need to move that money back. Likewise, we did a slight budget transfer from the transportation grant. We did not utilize all of the equipment dollars, so we moved that money into supplies through this grant through DESI, and so we need to move that money back just between the funds, and you'll see the corresponding adjustments in the expenditures down below. The next session is the revenue adjustments. As I shared earlier, our tax revenues have been strong. So we have some adjustments there. The rest of it is just to kind of align with our reality at this point in time. Obviously of note are the one-time funds that are listed there. That's the CARES ESSER grants, the CARES K-12 support, and the CARES ESSER 2 in the amount of $4.8 million that we did. That's what I shared that we did request and receive in June. So we've received that money, so we will have a very healthy fund balance at the end of the year, moving forward to expend. On the expenditure side, as I said, those first three items are just really to align with those operating transfers. When you look down further, the non-public, one of the ESSER grants, there's a non-public component to that. And on the expenditure side for ESSER, we actually used payroll, so I was able to, on the district portion of that, just move our budget dollars from our operating budget to being funded by these ESSER dollars. But on the non-public side, we actually need to increase the budget for that. This is money that's available to the non-publics within our district, and they control how that gets spent. We are the fiscal agent on their behalf for that. On the tech plan, at the end of last year, Ms. Norwood there was an expenditure she needed to make, was not able to make it in time for the end of the fiscal year, and spoke to Dr. Rodriguez and I about, that's going to fall kind of to the bottom line in our piggy bank. Can I have it available for next year? And so we wanted to provide that funding. The unemployment is, we saw an increase. This will not shock anyone. We saw an increase in our unemployment claims this year. As a reminder, we do not pay unemployment insurance. We pay actual claims. Generally speaking, that has served us well and saved us a lot of money over the years. But every once in a while, it can cost us a little bit too, and so we need to make that adjustment. Some purchase service things, high growth. We had the flood. There's some revenue to offset that increase, but we have to budget for the expenditure. Some extra expenses in transportation, and then facilities. Again, some of that will be supported by some of the grant dollars. There was not surprising, there was a fair amount of extra expenditures this year in the facilities department for a lot of the supplies that were needed to do the proper cleanings throughout our district. And then the rest of it is just some capital things. You've approved the projects, but we had not submitted to actually increase the budget for the capital projects. In all reality, most of this won't be expended until after July 1st, but for a budgetary purpose, we've got the purchase orders out there. We need to go ahead and increase that budget. We have adequate funds in our capital projects fund. We had just not budgeted all of them. So that's kind of the meat and potatoes of what that looks like. The summary is on the board item itself. Again, approval of this, we will end the year with an operating surplus of about $3.7 million, which will put us at about 21.5%. Like I say, we knew this was going to happen with the ESSER funds. We have plans for that. Part of the reason that Dr. Rodriguez was able to, the salary plan that he did was because he knew we would have these funds available and to free up some funds to make that a very generous package this year. So it was just the timing of when we got these receipts, but we will end the year with a very healthy fund balance, which is great. And then we'll move forward, but unfortunately it's kind of spoken for to some degree, so we won't live there forever. But I'm happy to respond to questions. Otherwise, we would request approval of the amendment.
Questions? How far are we into the Butcher Green playground? almost done.
Not quite,
Pretty
but
close.
what's not done, the structure is up and the mulch is down under the swing area. And the synthetic, pardon me, turf is under the play structures. They'll be back next week or the week after. They have to do the asphalt portion of the black space, but otherwise it's pretty darn close. It's looking, take a drive out there. It looks.
When I was there on Monday, yes, the asphalt's not done, but the structure is all up. They were putting some more of the pebbles down. The swings weren't quite attached yet, but you can see just about everything that's there. So.
We have told them not to attach swings until we're completely
Correct,
done.
I know.
Because that invites children to think it's incomplete. Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Just on a personal note, I guess one of the dads on my son's baseball team either works for the company or is in charge or whatever. He comes up to me and he goes, "So how do you like the playground we're building?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "The playground we're building." I'm like, "I don't know what playground you're talking about." He goes, "At your school." I was like, "Oh, okay. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet." So it was funny. He's like, "How do you like the playground?"
Yeah, it's,
What do you
you know, take a drive by, but certainly we'll continue to provide, as we usually do with the summer projects and things like that. We'll bring back at some point so you guys can see pics, but it's amazing.
It's phenomenal.
It already, the staff there before they left, they saw some of the progress and we're already so excited. And I know the kids are going to be just ecstatic.
The adults will be playing on that big piece.
I have no doubt.
It's great.
There may have been some up here saying we need to plan.
Yeah, there may be a few people in this room that do that same thing. So on this.
Things are good. All right, if there's no other questions, this does require a motion.
Approve the budget amendments as summarized in the background information and delineated in the attachment numbers.
Been properly moved and second to approve the budget amendments as summarized in the background information below attachment 2. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Passes unanimous. You get your money.
Thank you.
We'll move on. We have a preliminary budget for 2021, 2022.
Yeah, thank you. So the way we typically have developed our budget is we start with the final budget for the current year, which I'll be honest, was a little presumptuous, and I assumed you would approve the budget amendment that you just approved. Anyway, we started with that. We do back out any grants that we received during the current fiscal year, and you will see that information outlined on the first attachment. We also back out, back in September, we added some expenditures that was some grants carryover from the prior year, so we need to back that out to try to get to our baseline. We also need to reverse our transfers out for the year, which is a total of $747,000. Then we need to add in our anticipated adjustments. We always have our revenue and expenditure adjustments from the 3-year forecast, which is also attached for you in attachment number 2. However, this year we have a couple of extra items in this section. The first is on the revenue side. We do need to back out that one-time revenue if it was just included in the budget amendment of $5.5 million, because that is not recurring dollars. On the expenditure side, we are looking to spend 1/3 of our SR2 money that we got in. So we allowed that for the expenditures. So that results in an operating budget on the revenue side of about $58.2 million and on the expenditure side of about $59.2 million. Again, it will start the year in a budgeted deficit position, but we received the money this year for those ESSER funds, and we're going to start spending them out. So this is not a surprise or not anticipated. On Fund 3, Fund 3 is our debt service fund. That's just an estimate of the revenues we will receive, as well as the expenditures that will go out for our bond payments. And then on Fund 4, I did an estimate of about, we do receive some tax dollars in there, but then also I assume we may actually issue $15 million in bonds up to 45. That'll be determined, and Dr. Collison will work with the 15 to determine what the appropriate level is, but I started with 15 for now, and we'll see where that goes. It can always be amended moving forward as needed. Likewise, on the expenditure side, I estimated a $10 million output of funds for projects. Again, that can be firmed up a little bit more once those have been finalized and scheduled for in the next couple of months. So that's the preliminary budget that we are presenting for you for the 21-22 year. And I'm happy to respond to questions. Otherwise, I can make my final request for approval.
Say it like that.
It is.
Any questions? I have one. So you mentioned the gap on the proposed, the ESSER funds. Was that for Fund 3? Is that why the revenues is lower than the expenditures, or was that for the 58 million?
The 1/3 of the ESSER funds, that's part of our operating budget.
Okay.
We receive that as operating revenue this year, and so that'll be in our fund balance, and so we'll start to expend it next year. Fund 3, that is our debt service fund, so that's where we have a debt service levy for that. And then that's the $5 levy that the assumed levy at this point. And then our estimated expenditures are about $7.4 million, but we have a healthy fund balance in there, so that's not an issue.
Okay, so that's we put out more money than we get every year in that particular fund situation. And it's covered by what we already have.
No, typically we don't put out more than we get, but you may recall that the board approved some prepayment of some bonds in order to maintain our debt service levy. So we have our regular bond payments plus that prepayment is reflected in that number.
Okay.
So that is intentional.
Okay. Just because I'm not an accountant, right? Why wouldn't we make the, never mind. I'm not an accountant, Brian, math is hard. We're gonna move on. I got my question answered as I was thinking it out loud. Got it. I'm sorry. All right, any other questions? You know, words are hard, math is hard, it's a long day. All right, if there's no other questions, this does definitely require a motion.
I move we adopt preliminary budgets for the fiscal year 2021-2022 as outlined in background information.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second to adopt preliminary budgets for the fiscal year 21-22 as outlined in background information. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, passed unanimous. Thank you. Family and community involvement.
Yeah, we have continued to do this every single year, and we'll continue to do so as we move forward in terms of safety surveys. So, Ms. Deanda, I think we have a guest this evening.
We do. I believe you can see her in the background there. Ms. Cordier is here as always, and she will go over the results of the survey this year. Ms. Cordier?
Good evening, everyone. I am going to try to make this pretty quick just because on my phone it's blowing up that we're under a severe thunderstorm warning. So I'm going to definitely try to get through this. I am very happy to share with you our safety survey for this year. There were some interesting anomalies just because of COVID. So I just want to share a couple of the things that I noticed. First of all, we had to add the heading I attended virtually. Can we get the PowerPoint up, please?
He wants you to just wing it.
I can do that too.
I believe that.
Doesn't like me at the moment.
You can say it in the right accent.
Just
Well,
a second.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna try this. Nope, it's not letting. So,
I get mine.
Bear with us, Ms. Gordier.
That's okay. I'll just, if you guys would prefer, I can go ahead and go through just some of the, go ahead and go through what I was going to share with you all. And Kathy, you can definitely catch up. But there were, for the elementary school, there were 345 less elementary students that participated in this year's survey. We are thinking, of course, it was because of COVID. You will look in the when you see the elementary survey, it will appear that the I feel questions, I feel safe in the hallway, I feel safe in the cafeteria. You will see that the yes is a little bit lower, but that is because 25% of our students that answered in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, the elementary survey, they were virtual. So that's one thing that I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of. This was the first time that some of our kiddos actually shared some possible suggestions. And when our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders have suggestions, we definitely need to listen. So 3 things that really stuck out was, 1, having a partner when they would leave their classrooms, asking the teachers check the restrooms, and also they wanted anti-bullying posters in the school. So we're really going to look at that to see if possibly we can have some type of contest where we will be able to get some anti-bullying posters in the elementary classroom. For the middle school, we determined that for some reason, we don't know why, but Martin City's responses were not recorded. So that may be one reason why we had such a low number. We have decided, I've talked with Dr. Harris, and we are planning to have just a small safety survey for the Martin City middle school kiddos in September, and that will give Martin City a baseline in which to work with their safety survey. So I look forward to sharing that information, but we found it unusual that Martin City did not show up. So we will take care of that. Some of the things that we noticed, 1, over 23% of the students were virtual, so they also were given an opportunity of either I don't know or virtual for this year. For our staff, the high school this year, because they were, a lot of their students were virtual and they did not come really back to the high school until April, and that the window had already closed for the district survey. So they conducted a survey at the high school level. Dr. Rudolph did share with me that there were a couple of safety questions in there, but we do fully anticipate that the high school will participate in the survey for the 21-22 school year. So let's go to our actual staff survey. First of all, there was about 170 extra staff members took the survey. It was the highest actual participants of the survey from the staff for the past 5 years. They did overall feel that their school was safe. They felt that dismissals were safe. They felt that 85% took all threats and rumors of violence very seriously. But one thing that I do want to bullet is the 93% felt that the overall school was safe, and that was a 5% increase. When you look at the COVID questions, most of our COVID questions from the staff was with the strongly agree and agree. There was over 70% of the staff that felt that the district did an overall great job notifying when there was an issue. They felt supported when making an issue, making a decision about their health. So that was very interesting. I really hope that we don't ever have to ask questions like this again. But that information was very interesting. And it was with anytime we can get over 70% where they agree or strongly disagree, agree or strongly agree, that is definitely a good thing. Also, this year, our parents really ended up participating in our survey. We've always usually gone around 100. Before I got here, it was really close to 200 one year. But this year, where there were over 385 parents that participated in the survey. Overall, our parents felt that our schools are safe. Overall, 73% of the participants were elementary parents, but it was the COVID questions that were really eye-opening. Over 90% as far as satisfied with our communication, over 90% of our parents agreed or strongly agreed with how the district handled the communication. Over 75% felt comfortable expressing their concerns about COVID. It was all of the actual questions were over 70% again, agree or strongly agree. So overall, it was an increase. There was a greater participation with our teachers, our staff members, and our parents. So I am very excited about their feelings and how our kids feel safe in our schools. It continues to increase every year between 3 and 6%. So I am very hopeful about the great things we'll be able to do next year. Are there any questions?
Questions? Someone, a few. So back to the COVID questions.
Mhm.
I know
For staff or for parents?
For staff.
Okay.
So I know Ms. Cordier, you mentioned, anything 70% is good. But, given that one of our large goals of the district and of you, Dr. Rodriguez, is that communication and things like that. What are your thoughts around, approximately 25 to 30% of staff answer disagree or strongly disagree with relation to communication, expressing kind of pretty much all the questions related to COVID?
Yeah, I think, when I look at that, I think many of our folks, I think, would just automatically answer no matter what the question was going to be if they were not happy with any number of different things that we did. So number one, I would say, obviously I'm concerned that it's not higher, but when I look at different national data and stuff like that, I can tell you that it's actually in the ballpark of a lot of different things that I've read, if not sometimes even a little bit higher. There is one that's not K-12, but just kind of a national survey with employers. And the employees said that they only were in support of about 60%, 67% in terms of their communication from their employer. In K-12, it's a little bit different, but some of them believe that it's their approval rating of their district actually decreased by about 10% from the year before. So I'm not saying that excuses anything. It's just a data point that I look at. My concern, I can tell you the feedback that I heard all year was all over the map. And it's interesting. There's some questions there, and I think she did it on purpose. Obviously, Ms. Cordier included some of the comments that were written in, and you can kind of see everything from, I don't think there was this, I don't think we should bring students back. Thank you for bringing students back. I think kids should wear masks, or I don't think kids should be required to wear masks. I know we got feedback from our union reps and things whenever I was talking with them of some concerns around staff members not wearing masks when they were supposed to. And so we would send out information, and then we would get negative feedback from staff members saying, I can't believe you keep doing this and keep saying these things. And I get it. I mean, everyone was just at a high tension and concern. And so our approach was always trying to take the feedback that we got and try to put it in context with that. And so I think if we swayed more of that 28-30%, I guarantee you that some of the 70% would then be in maybe that other column. So I agree with Angela's comment that I hope that we never have to really have a survey that deals with something like this ever again. But just like you have seen any national whatever, there are people who think we did a fantastic job dealing with all of this with vaccinations. There are people who think we did a horrible job, and we have everything in between. There are people that don't think we should be wearing masks right now. And there are people that think that we should still be everybody should still be wearing masks right now. So I'm not saying, the feedback that I received, we tried to always err on the side of people who were concerned and had fear, but also what did Mary Rhodes in a consultation with Jackson County Health Department are trying to say is consistent with that process as possible. And so even though there was still going to be a group that was frustrated by whatever, we tried to make sure that we stayed as consistent. We got concerns around, it kept changing. They're right. Everything that we kept being told kept changing. So we tried to adapt. But then I also heard from people that thank you for adapting to what was going on. So it really was a little all over the place. And so felt like we tried to do as good a job as possible with those pieces. So I'm not going to say I'm not concerned with the 30%, because clearly I am, and try to listen to those concerns, and made myself available to talk to any number of different staff members so they could tell me their concerns. I felt like we actually heard concerns, and I shared with the board previously that, even in November, I talked to almost every single staff member through their staff meetings and things. And I heard comments around we need more communication. And so we changed our communication approach and had more updates and more things. So I felt like we tried to do the best we possibly could with the situation that we were dealt, and then hopefully we won't have to deal with that situation. But communication obviously is still a major component for what we need to do. And I hope to bring back some more things to you when we talk about the exit surveys and some other things next month that I think will lay the groundwork from additional pieces of that question of, so what now? What are you going to do now? So you know this, what are you going to do about it? So I'll share more of those things when we get the next one.
Any questions? All right, this is just informational, so thank you, Ms. Cordier, as always. Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Student Assistance Program.
Yes. It's the end, I think.
I am going to be the shortest item. We think this is still valuable. It is here because we had an increase at 3 cents per student. So we wanted to bring this back to you for renewal. It dovetails right into our social emotional support that we're trying to expand, and we're recommending that you approve. Happy to answer any questions. Still the same services. Everything is.
It just costs more because everything does.
It does.
Any questions?
Make the motion.
Hey,
Made the motion.
I move that we approve a contract with New Direction Behavioral Health for the Student Assistance Program at an annual cost not to exceed $22,400.
Second.
Properly moved and second to approve the contract with New Directions for a cost not to exceed $22,400. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Passed unanimous. Thank you so much. Is that your last?
This would be my last item before the board. Thank you very much. For approving.
Both grinning. All right, strategic governance focus area.
We do have a couple policies there. I'll say a couple, I actually mean several. First reading, certainly anything you want to add, Ms. Myers?
No, it's all right.
Several updates, and we'll bring back a few more next month as well, but It's that time of year where several policies are being updated, so they're there for your perusal.
All right, any questions about first read policies?
Approve the recommendation as presented.
You know what the alphabet soup is? I did it, you can do it.
I'm really shocked that actually that didn't happen several ones ago after the concerns that we already had. So I'm impressed that we got there. But nicely done.
Second that.
The vet right there.
Been properly moved in. Seconded, words are hard. Sorry. To adopt the policies as presented. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Thank you. Passes unanimous. Reports of board members. Would like to start tonight.
I do want to say that August 6th, GEF is planning a meet and greet to invite all the businesses in. It's a Saturday, I think. Is it? No, Friday. In the morning at the View, I think. I'm not sure that's been confirmed, but I'm full of information.
Yeah, you are.
Accurate information. And
August
September
6th is a Friday.
Okay, thank you. And September 18th is the Heroes for Education Walk Run, so put that on your calendars, watch for invitations to both of those things.
That is a Saturday.
It is a Saturday. See, I knew there was Saturday in there somewhere.
That's one I look forward to every year, so.
Yeah, you can join us.
All right. Who's next? Full of information. So I just have a couple things then. We still do need someone for brand new 10. And if we don't have anybody deciding by August, then they will be voluntold. They're on that. That's how we have to do it. We have to have somebody. So any volunteers yet? Okay. Get one more month to think about it. The only other thing that I would like to add is directed over here. The two ladies are smiling from ear to ear, telling us it's their last of everything. So this is our last address to you as officially as the board. And so I just want to say thank you guys for your service. It's been wonderful to work with you. And sorry to say, big shoes to fill, Stephanie, and Royce, wherever he is. I'm sure he's listening somewhere here. We just, I don't know how to express our appreciation for everything that you've done. All of the information, taking our ribbings and answering our questions, and you'll be missed very much.
I'll second that one too.
Got that in the minutes? All righty, so with that. Last thing.
Second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. Adjourned, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank goodness, we are adjourned. Passes unanimous. Good morning, Brian.